Hello, everybody. Surprise. Impromptu surprise, little surprise visit that we're going to do for you tonight since we don't have any hashtags planned or anything until the 15th. Um, I just thought maybe a couple of little surprise things that we might just pop on and do some lives just for chit chatting or whatever, or if something specific happens or whatever. Um, But I do have a goal in mind tonight, and that is we're going to talk about, and I want everybody in the audience in the chat to also share, in the chat your stories too, if you'd like. But I want to know what brought everyone to Daniel's case. And when I was thinking about that question, I thought, well, what was it that got me involved in the case or brought me to the case, and I thought, well, that was Jack. I don't remember what we were chatting about on one of the discords one day, but I said something possibly about not being surprised that it seems like every time we learn some information about a wrongful conviction case, another one comes up and another, and they just get worse and worse as they go on. It seems like, and Jack mentioned to me, "Oh, hey, you need to if you haven't seen or heard of, asked me, I believe, have you heard of Daniel Holtzclaw?" And I think I had heard the name, and I had kind of seen his, picture and stuff popping up when I would go on YouTubes and things, but I didn't know anything about it. And I just told him, no, I've seen his name and his picture, but I don't know anything about his case. And he was like, oh my gosh. And so he told me, you need to watch Daniel in the Den. It's by Michelle Malkin, and you need to watch that. And then, it's a horrible case. So I did, watched all of it, and then I couldn't, just like with any of the other things, I just couldn't get enough. It wasn't enough information. I needed more. So I started Googling and all those things, and it took me to get through Daniel in the Den, and it hit me. I realized it wasn't even anything I had to think about, but I knew that Daniel Holtzclaw was my case. This was going to be the case that I had been waiting for. And it didn't mean anything that, Stephen and Brendan's cases weren't important to me, but it did. It just struck a chord, or whatever the cliche is. And I just, in my gut, knew that this was wrong. He was wrongfully convicted, and that I was going to make this the case that I was gonna solve. Well, not that it's necessarily could be solved or anything, but this was going to be the case I was going to focus on. So before I get to Jack, first of all, I just want to say hi really quick to everybody in the chat. Not my verbiage, Linda. You've been here for a while. You've logged in a long time ago. My beautiful daughter, Ashley Guzman. Good to see you. Dark Side, great to see you here. Catnip, J-Jax is here. Surprise. And we have Becca and Mose. Great to see you, Mose. Thank you for coming. And yeah, that for now looks like about what we have, but I'm pretty sure more will come, especially once people start realizing that Jack is here, our little local celebrity. I don't have links ready for tonight. Tonight, there's no structure. There's no whatever it's called. Nothing we're reading or presenting or anything. It's just going to be some good, fun chit chat. So there's no links, but mods, where everything is, and definitely would like for you guys to. Hi, T1. Thanks for coming. I would definitely love for you guys, the mods, to drop links to really all of the best places for people to get good information. I want to remind everybody that you guys all know that this panel, it's 1,000,000% important that we give you facts, that we give you information that's been researched. And hi, Smart Duck, welcome. Good to see you here. And we don't want to give you anything that we don't know is factual. And if we do pass on something that we're not 100% certain of, we will tell you that. But we try really hard not to even do that. So Again, welcome everybody that's here on this kind of little impromptu, not the regular night live. I would just like briefly to have Cherie, if you don't mind, sharing your little story or whatever that brought you to Daniel, and then I'll have Kay go after that if it's okay.
Okay, well, I remember when it was on the national news when he was convicted, and I didn't know much then, and I thought he was guilty. But all I saw was a little news clip. I didn't really think much about it, I guess. But then, actually, when Eric Cozy started doing videos on it, is when I started to learn more about the case and the real facts. And then I was still not 100%. I wanted to dig in more, but once we, listening to Brian Bates and all the documents that we've been able to look at and stuff, it's clear, that he was railroaded. So yeah, that's how I got into it.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Kay, you're kind of like a celebrity to some of us. I know that's weird.
Yeah. Well, bless your heart.
By the way, Kay is always the consummate professional. She'll always tell us, I'm probably not going to be on camera, but I'll be there. And I just go, yeah, right. Every time she says that, she shows up looking gorgeous. And so I am not as professional as I want to be and will be at some point in the future. But I did thought, what we're talking, just having discussion about Daniel. So I thought I'll just put Daniel up here to bounce at you guys when I talk. So go ahead, Kay. What is your
well, so obviously I knew about the case, but living in Oklahoma and living in Daniel's hometown too, but I wasn't really watching a lot of news at the time. And so what I knew was just based on the front page of the newspaper, Oklahoma City News, that I would catch, because this went on for a while. And they hammered him on the news, from the time that Janie Liggins did her cameo interview, all the way, well, still. So it was Christmas time. He had already been convicted, and I heard about the 2-hour interview, and I'd been watching a lot of true crime stuff, and I thought, I'm going to check this out. I'm going to check it out and see if he's a good liar or not. I remember that being my thought process. And so I watched the whole 2-hour interview and I was so sick, because I knew that he was innocent just from that 2-hour interview. And I wanted to find everything I could find, like you, Rhonda, about the case. And, I wanted transcripts. And it was hard to find anything really. So I just spent my time from then to now, trying to learn everything I could about the case, and leaning really heavily on Brian Bates, who was the private investigator, because he's had the case all organized in his brain. And, even though he was the investigator for the defense, I felt like he was a straight shooter, because he would say things that didn't, there are things, like with all of us in our lives, that wouldn't look good if the public, were the ones that were going to decide, what was I thinking when I did that, or, and he exposes those things, the good, the bad, and the ugly. So that's how I got involved. And I reached out to Daniel's dad and connected with him, and he connected me to our local team of supporters. And we just started fundraising and, doing what you can. It's really been a long road. And it seems like we're, not really anywhere yet. We know how long it takes to overturn convictions. So, that's it.
Okay. That's quite a bit, though. I keep calling you a celebrity because you live so close. It's like a good thing necessarily, but it's kind of in your backyard. So
Yeah.
just like everybody that lives in Wisconsin area, that's involved in the Stephen and Brendan case, we kind of assume, I think sometimes that all of them are just, know everything about the case. And, I know it's not necessarily the true, the facts, but it sounds good. It makes me feel good anyway. I don't know.
Yeah.
All right. Well, at the end, before we do finish, because I know I'll forget, so I'm going to ask my co-host and even Jack to remind me before we do, even if we do end up running longer, remind me to talk about an idea that some of us were chatting about after the movie this afternoon in Foul Play, that we were kind of tossing around to just see how you guys out there in the chat and you guys on the panel, what you think about it too. So try to remind me if you can think about it. So Jack, that brings us to you. I'd like everyone to, give Jack a round of applause or however we do that in chat. So welcome, Jack. Thank you for, I didn't realize or didn't pay attention to the fact that it's quite a bit later for Jack, at the time I scheduled it, but it's okay. I know Jack's got a story though, or, some information to share about, his involvement. So I'm just going to start out with, first of all, Jack, how did you hear about Daniel's case?
Well, thanks for asking me to come on. And I guess, I was sitting here thinking about how did it all come about for me, and the best I can remember was I do remember seeing it was probably something online, a news article about, this Oklahoma cop getting arrested for, all these rapes. And I'm thinking, man, yeah, well, they've got another bad cop and they locked his ass up. Good. That was probably my, just thinking about it, from whenever that time frame was. And I can't tell you when I saw it. I really don't remember. And then, moving forward, of course, I mean, even at that time though, I was looking at, true crime stuff and that kind of thing. And I remember there was some conversation about it on Reddit, probably in the, to some degree in the TikTok sub and so forth and so on. But then I don't know who told me about it, but the Michelle Malkin interviews, obviously, that's what really turned the corner for me. I'm just like, okay, I just decided to watch it. Mm-hmm. I was blown away. I was completely blown away. I'm like, what the F-bomb is going on here? So, I did a little bit more. I mean, obviously I was neck deep involved in the Avery saga case and all that. So, I didn't really want to take on another case, but I thought I would look into it a little bit, and I did. And then, of course, I found more information out, and that's really kind of how it came about for me. I just have so many questions. Certainly I'm no lawyer, but the legality of some of the things that really transpired, really from the beginning, really stuck out in my mind, and it just didn't wash right with me. It still doesn't, and I know it doesn't for all for a lot of people. It comes across as that they were going after him, period, without having a subjective lens in front of them. But yeah, that's really kind of how it came about for me. Obviously, when we were talking about it on Discord, whenever it was, and I sent you those links, or maybe I sent you the links. I don't remember if I did or not, but it seemed like I did send you the YouTube link to her videos. Yeah, I think I did.
Yeah.
But that's been months ago now. But
I know.
It's just it's another one of those things. We've talked about so many over the last several months of going through the book Blind Injustice and talk about all that and all these other cases that we've talked about. It's just you think about all of these different aspects of our criminal justice system, and how we think as people that really probably haven't been into that side of law enforcement, haven't had to deal with it really to much to any capacity. But then to see this other side of it, and you think, damn, this is a whole other world that, again, we never really knew about, but yet it keeps happening. So anyway, before I ramble on any further, that's kind of where I began with it. And again, I just do not remember how it actually came. I remember reading this article long, some few years ago, whenever, the verdict was, and it hit whatever article. I can't tell you where I read it. I just remember, saying, yeah, they got another bad cop off the street, but then that's not really what it's about at all. So.
Right. What do you think it's about? Why do you think they, that this happened? Why do you think that, do you have an opinion about why this happened to Daniel, or could it have happened to any of the officers? It just happened to be Daniel. What do you have an opinion about that?
Just from what, of course, my knowledge is far less than, yours or Kay's or, Cherie's, just looking at it from what I do know, it's almost like that it could have been any one of them. That's just, from the way it was approached by, Blinker and Rocky.
Yeah.
Blinker.
Yeah, well, I got that from Rhonda or Linda. I don't remember which one, but
I like to call her Rocky. I like to call him Rocky and Blinkwinkle.
Yeah, that too. That'll work. But the way that it all came about, and they're actively searching for people and bringing them in and saying, well, oh yeah, well, he probably assaulted you, didn't he? It was almost that kind of mentality. So in this original case, what was her name?
Janie Liggins.
Liggins, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Driving from that, because he had made this stop, he had ended his shift, right, and he was on his way home, and so it could have happened. To me, it could have happened to anyone. And then all the other things that add to it. It's not just Rocky and Blinkwinkle. It's what this prosecutor did during the trial, and some of the things that he said. The DNA, the vaginal DNA, which was never presented at trial, was allowed to stand. To me, it's just, there's so many things. That's just one thing. There's so many other things involved in the trial that were terrible. But come to find out the lab tech was related to Rocky, right? That's his mother-in-law. Is that right? Yeah. So
interest there, huh?
Well, she should have immediately said, I can't be involved in that because I'm a direct relation. I have to remove myself from the case, and that didn't happen. And so that's another part of the whole system of justice. To me, it failed Daniel. It actually failed itself, really, because that should be an automatic. You don't really even have to think about that kind of thing. What are you doing? Just this person can't be involved.
Right.
Their son-in-law is a detective on the case. So you have a direct conflict of interest right there.
Don't you think they got away with that by saying that, oh, that was Kim Davis's victim, because they would split up the victims. And so because Janie Liggins was Kim Davis's victim, but once they joined all of those cases together, it was all dirty. I'm sorry, I didn't interrupt.
No. You're absolutely right. But no, you're absolutely right. They did get away with one because, to me, it's like saying, these two are a team of detectives, but for this instance here, this is really their witness, or their case. To me, you just cannot do that because they worked it as a team, they went after it as a team, and they prosecuted it as a team. Mm-hmm. So. Yeah. I think that was terrible. It all was. And I think that, underlying, I don't know, you guys would know more than me. It's almost like that they had something against Daniel. It could have been any one of them, I guess, but
I think it made it easy to take Daniel out because, and I agree with you, Jack, that whoever would have been accused of sexual assault from a Black woman making the accusations at that time, it was just there was too much racial tension going on already. And, any officer could have, I think they would have taken any officer out to save themselves, to save the city from what happened at Ferguson.
well, yeah, then Ferguson came along,
And then Ferguson came along, and, if you look at the timeline of, events in Ferguson and try to match up the different events in Ferguson to what Kim and Rocky and Lieutenant Musney were doing with the case, you can see that they accelerated with everything that they were doing when shit hit the fan in Ferguson.
Absolutely.
It's so obvious. And,
Well,
they had Terry Morris, who had made this accusation of, being assaulted by a police officer, which I believe she only said it to get out of trouble. She didn't want to pursue it. And they knew that Daniel was one of the last officers who had contact with her, but, nothing matched up. She was sure about her story of an area where it happened. She was more sure of the time frame that it happened. And it was 3 weeks away from when Daniel had a contact with her, And so I think they thought it was going to be easy to pin it on Daniel, but then she didn't cooperate right away. And so, they got creative with how to get her to cooperate. I mean, it's always interesting when someone doesn't cooperate, and then when they're in jail, their story lines up with exactly what you wanted them to say.
Well, and we've seen other cases of the same nature. These witnesses get threatened to get there may be a little bit of trouble. It's probably pretty minor, but then they get threatened, and so then it becomes a major trouble. They're going to take their kids away or whatever.
Yeah, whatever. There's no telling what kind of, there's just no telling what kind of stuff they told them, this could happen or this could happen. You'll be entitled to this or this could happen. Was Daniel not very well liked? Or, I really think that he was probably, some officers may have been jealous of his, obviously, the gang unit assignment, maybe the new car. I don't know. Those all seem like petty things, but Daniel had the mindset that he was going to work hard and move up, and he wanted to get back to the gang unit. And he felt like he was working really hard and doing the things that he needed to do in his district to get the attention of the people that could get him back into the gang unit. And he just had his head down and was working hard. So he didn't really have a lot of at-work friendships, because in his spare time, it was all dedicated to mostly bodybuilding activities.
Yeah, right. He took care of himself, and he was very athletic and big, tall, good-looking guy. Wanted to do, take care of himself, and that way, keep himself healthy. That's again part of moving yourself forward in your career, your chosen career. Being a cop, you got to be in a relative, especially a patrol officer. You need to be in good physical condition.
Yeah, he could definitely handle himself. For
absolutely.
Sure. Yeah. So, he would always, T1, he would say that, people were just lazy. And he wasn't raised to be lazy. He's from a family of, pretty driven people, and everyone gets a job. Everyone's working. He's been working since he was 14, I think. So yeah, I'm sure you know how that goes.
Sure. People get jealous of that. Someone else, they see someone else is so driven by ambition, whatever, maybe not so driven that they were willing to step over the bodies to, get where they're going, but they're not going to, they're not going to dilly daddle if somebody's not going to pull their weight. They're going to do what they got to do. Right.
Yeah.
So that's possible, I guess. I really haven't heard, probably like you guys would have heard, any officers that has stepped forward and said, oh, this guy's terrible and, all this other stuff. I never really heard that at all.
No.
So again, I think that this could have possibly fell on anyone given the tensions at the time. I mean, I think the Eric Garner incident had already happened in New York. Right. I'm sure it had actually.
Yeah.
So, there were things that were already beginning to happen. I do remember one thing in this Michelle Malkin thing that she was talking about them being at court at trial, and you could hear the protesters outside. It was so loud. You could literally hear them.
Yeah. There's a part in the transcript where the judge had to stop. Well, I think Michelle said that in her video too, had to stop the trial and admonish the jury to disregard the chanting that they were hearing. 36 counts, give him life. 36 counts, give him life. Racist cop, racist cop. So, and the city gave them a permit to be there and to do that demonstration. They knew what the group was about. So, man, there should have been.
I don't deny anyone the right to protest, but at the same time, there has to be I guess some kind of common sense thing, if you're going to protest, one thing you can't really, because that's interference in my view of, I mean, if I was, was ever in any kind of trouble or, a loved one, you wouldn't want a protest against that person basically right outside the courthouse or the courtroom where the jury can hear this stuff and potentially be influenced by it.
Yeah.
In whatever capacity.
A fair trial is always a good thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah. All right. We hijacked your show, Rhonda.
Oh, no. Listen, I'm happy to get it started and talk at the end, but I am all good with everybody else talking in the middle. So it's great. I mean, there's never, you can't say any of the true information enough. There's just, it needs to be said all the time. I like that, T1. Hard workers threaten the comfortable complacency of others. That is just like truer words were never spoken. That's pretty good.
That's true, T1.
Stop making me look bad, man.
Yeah, exactly. Quit working so hard. You're making me look bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's really bad. Jeez.
And true.
True. Yep, absolutely true. So I am in knowing that, you don't have, I mean, I know you haven't had a chance to watch all of our lives and, look at the documentation and things like that, what we do have. And I know that, but I know there's got to be something, Jack, that has been like one big thing that you've learned about, or maybe that you've learned from, us doing our shows, that has been the most surprising or shocking to you, the more familiar you've become with the case. Are there one or two things, or,
There's probably 3 or 4 that really stick out. And we've already talked about one, and that's this active Rocky and Blinkwinker, doing their thing, really, they're trying to make a case against someone, cop or not, when no one else has complained. That's number one. And I whether these people had, chemical dependency problems or whatever, to me, that number one really sticks out because they're going to look for trouble against this guy to build a case. That really amplifies, of course, it carries through. Then, moving, I guess, forward a little bit, and this came later, and I guess this was also in the Michelle Malkin thing, talking about this DNA. They talked about at trial, I guess, there was this one DNA, touch DNA on the zipper, when in fact there were, I want to say this wrong probably, but there were 4 different touch DNA standards, right? Is that right? And 2 of them were men.
Are you saying the DNA contained, did the DNA contain several people? Is that what you were saying?
Yeah.
The DNA from the fly of the uniform pants derived from at least 3 people. Sample included DNA from at least 1 male. The DNA did not come from semen. The analyst testified incorrectly that she found no evidence of male DNA in the 2 samples from the inside of the fly.
But to me, I guess that really kind of jumps out, because if she was really testifying or had actually done the test properly, she would have seen it correctly. I mean, to me, I don't know how she couldn't if she was truly doing the test objectively.
I think her lab protocols allowed her to disregard it, even though she knew it was there, because it fell below the threshold. But when we had a DNA live, what was that, our last one? But when you look at, when you compare the markers that were available, I can't remember how many of them lined up to Daniel's DNA. So
it's 7 or 11.
Yeah, it was something like that. So it's pretty clear that it probably was Daniel's DNA, which is no surprise. I mean,
another thing that, and this got past me, and I just now thought about it because there's so many things, but you guys had mentioned this, and it was also in the Michelle Malkin thing, but I remember hearing you guys talk about the person, I can't remember which witness it was, said that whoever they described was not Daniel at all. They were too short. The build was wrong. Even maybe the hair color. I can't remember for that for sure, but it was completely.
Yeah, I think there were 2, at least 2. I mean, one was Sherry Ellis, who said he was a short black guy.
Right.
Rhonda, what did she
Sherry Ellis?
Sherry Ellis, she said his skin shade or his skin tone
was darker than hers, was what she said. And he was shorter than her, and she was like 5'10" or 5'11".
She stood up and she was like, he's shorter than me. He's like, and Kim says, well, you're a pretty tall girl.
Yeah. Daniel is how tall though?
Yeah. He's 6'3", isn't he?
Yeah.
So Sherry Ellis was, 5'10" or even 11, but saying that her attacker was shorter than her. Yeah, I think it probably wasn't Daniel.
Hey man, I've stood beside Daniel Holtzclaw, and he's a giant,
big dude.
He's a giant man. It makes an impression. It really is. I mean, I've had friends that were professional football players before, and it's kind of unbelievable how massive their muscle structure is. So it's not something you forget.
Yeah.
So that right there sticks out. There was another interview that that I think Rocky had done, and he's talking to this lady, and clearly they had, concocted this cockamamie story, and the camera was still rolling as they were leaving the room.
Mm,
Yeah. Shardarion Hill.
yeah.
She was one who came forward, although she came forward after she heard about it. So
Well, I'm sure she was looking at dollar signs to me. That's what, all
Yeah.
of them are looking for is a payoff.
Well, she remembered him after she saw him on the news because he spent all those hours in the ER with her when he saved her life.
Yeah.
So,
And then she did that to him.
and then she did that for money.
Of course, for money, absolutely. And then we talked about the trial. And I do remember this. This was really blowed me away about the prosecutor, what he got away with. And I still don't know how the defense lawyer's hair didn't set on fire, because I know mine would have. Because he had to know that kind of thing was not done. It wasn't never talked about or admitted at trial. So why is he not jumping up and down and raising like 54 kinds of hell right there on the spot, right in the middle of his closing? I don't care what the judge said.
I don't know. Brian Bates, I had this conversation with Brian maybe a couple years ago, and I feel like he said that something like that Adams had been objecting a lot, and the judge was irritated with him. It was something along those lines. But I'm sorry, that was a big one.
That was a whopper.
That was inflammatory beyond anything.
And it was not true.
And it achieved the purpose for which it was intended as well. And
that's right.
Man,
blows me away. Yeah. And then
what a gut punch.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And then moving, I know I'm got a lot of things in my list. I'm sorry, Rhonda.
No.
That's why you're here, dude. Come on now.
Well, the one of the last things that I'll say, and then I'll let you guys talk about it. After it was all said and done, I guess the lab tech mother-in-law retires, and the defense, I guess it was the new defense team, I'm guessing here, went after this her emails and correspondence, and suddenly the city says, oh, they've been deleted, which number one was a big no-no to me. But number two, they came back later and said, oh, well, we found them.
They found some of them. Yeah.
Found some of them, yeah.
Right.
Thousands, but it was still thousands of them they found.
Right.
There was a flurry of activity after Daniel filed his direct appeal, because then they knew what they had to squash out to, not be exposed. All the people in this case know that they have committed crimes to convict Daniel Holtzclaw. They all know what they've done.
Oh, I 100% agree with that. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, geez. I just lost my train of thought. That just made me so mad.
Emails, and these people knew what they had to do.
After his direct appeal, they're scrambling around they know that their lab analyst screwed up, and they had to get her out of there. I mean, they'd already dealt with corruption in their lab with
Gilchrist.
Yeah. I mean, they pushed her out for an early retirement. They had those secret hearings and called him personnel, basically a personnel meeting, but she wasn't even there.
Right.
What? I mean, and they got away with it so far.
Yeah.
And they
they're-
were-
Oh, well, yeah. Are
Yeah.
you talking about the meetings with the judge, with the defense was not have been allowed to attend, and the prosecutor was there,
Yeah.
and
And all of those
Everybody
documents
but
are-
Daniel was there. Sorry.
no, you're right. All of those documents were sealed, and they kept them sealed for a long time. His defense team finally did get to see. I'm not sure that they got to see all of them because they are still redacted heavily, and we just have to trust them that that's all about Elaine Taylor's personnel problems or personnel review.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't make any sense.
No.
They didn't have a problem releasing Daniel's termination letter to the press,
That's right.
which said some inflammatory thing like this is the worst abuse of police whatever I've seen in my whole entire career, coming from Bill City, the most corrupt chief, one of the most corrupt chiefs in his corrupt chief club from around the world. I mean,
Yep. Yeah, there is a club, isn't there?
oh yeah. I mean, all those people ought to link up and have conventions and
Right. With their
well,
back.
they very well might, and they're doing it in secret.
Yeah, exactly. Definitely in secret. They got those black robes with the hoods on them. So, I'm sure they're linking up somehow. They got to be swapping down stories or something. I don't know. It's insane. Yeah. So, yeah, those are all pretty much some of the same. I mean, I have more on my list that now because I know more now, of course, but just about everything that happened in Daniel's case in my mind. Every time I learned something else, read another whatever, I was just more and more shocked and more angry. But what happened with that shock and anger was it just like it buries my passion, even deeper in my soul to keep, working on this case, working for Daniel. Real quick. Hi, Susan. Real quick too, Linda not not only do I type at not, but I even say it. That's bad, Rhonda. Too much time on the Discord and stuff. But Linda, not my verbiage, wants to know where is Daniel in the court system and what are his options. I always turn everything over to Kay, but I mean, and I hope you're okay with that. I just know that you have on the tip of your tongue, good information that I usually have to think for a minute to give. So
his appeal with the Oklahoma State Supreme Court, because I mean, from what I'm familiar with, it feels like he filed his appeals out of order, but I mean, I guess that's just from the shows that I watch and how I think it should be. So he was denied, obviously, with his direct appeal. They upheld the conviction. It went to the Supreme Court where they declined to take the case, to hear the case, and now they're preparing his Oklahoma State Court of Appeals, which, man, those judges are all former prosecutors, and we have a serious good old boy system here in Oklahoma. It's super shady. So, we're going to have to shake some things up in Oklahoma County to get some things changed.
Yep.
Anyway, that appeal's due, I don't know, like the end of the first quarter of this next year, I think.
Okay, the quarter. Yeah,
Coming up.
Who knows? I don't know if it's realistic, but I feel like it just keeps changing. But I could be wrong.
That one doesn't keep changing, but the civil trial,
Okay.
The civil trial's been pushed a whole bunch of times. And so I think I can't remember if it's scheduled. I think it's scheduled in January right now.
That's,
It's not going to happen in January.
well,
We're
yeah,
going to get murdered by COVID here. We already are.
yeah. I know it's like Oklahoma and Utah are in this like battle to see who can get the most cases in a day.
We're fighting to see who's the most stupid. You're right.
Yeah,
Yeah. I think we're going to win. Yeah.
You're right. We had another almost 4,000 yesterday, so I don't know. We'll see. It's ridiculous, but that's a whole other everything
That's
that
a whole other
that
story.
just gets me all upset and pissed off talking about that. So we'll change that subject. Um, so having I lost my train of thought, and I have some little questions here. For Jack, I can't find I closed out my question window. Damn it. Anyway, so I just would like to invite Jack and everybody else, actually, everybody else in the chat, and whoever might be watching our shows, our podcasts, or whatever these are called, on replays or whatever. We invite you guys to come to Discord. I say this every time we do a show. We need to get our Discord popping. It's not doing anything. I want to remind everybody that we are. So we were talking about. I think Kay said it about what was it called? What did you call it?
I need
Good old boys area where you're at. So, and all the corruption in Oklahoma. And so I know that we've all listened. Jack had streamed Death, Blind Injustice for us, or, played that for us. And I know that everybody that listened to that was just, every time we would listen to parts of it, we would walk away with our jaws, hanging open, because it was just so amazing. What Mark, what was his name? Mark Godsey, he's an excellent author, by the way. He was really good. But at the same time that Jack was doing that over in Foul Play, I had started reading a book called Death and Justice by Mark Furman. Now, I'm about a week behind in getting out the last 2 chapters that we read, as far as, putting them over in Discord for, people to go back and listen to. But the way that I parallel Death and Justice to Blind Injustice, besides the titles are so similar, is that Death and Justice, Mark Furman is focused, all of his entire book is written about Oklahoma City. And he started by, he was, did an investigation or whatever when he was getting ready to write his book. He went to Oklahoma City to find out why they had this high rate of death row inmates and executions in Oklahoma. And so in this book, that's what we're talking about, or that's what we're reading, is, the astounding, extremely high rate of, extremely high, and I'll qualify this in just a second, but high rate of death row inmates that are, the reason that I say extremely high is because at one point, and I don't remember when it was, and I know I've got the article somewhere saved, but Bob Macy, who is the main prosecutor that Mark Furman's book talks about, is he's known as one of the country's 5 top or 5 worst prosecutors to send people to death row.
Hang them high.
As Kay has said, it's hang them high, Macy, or hang them, whatever they call it.
That's his mentality. It was his mentality.
If you haven't joined us when I've been reading the book, I'm probably going to read tomorrow. I'm going to get the other 2 chapters out tomorrow on the book room, and I'm going to read tomorrow. And I'm kind of this is my second time going through the book. And so now I just kind of want to read more than just a couple of chapters, but I don't want to bore everybody either that's trying to listen. But it's that intriguing to hear. Mark Furman had discovered, was able to uncover all of this corruption that was going on in Oklahoma City with the good old boys that Kay was talking about. And, we've seen that in Wisconsin. They have their own good old boys club there. But it's really, if you come and listen to the book, Death and Justice, you get to hear a lot about who we've talked about before on the show, Joyce Gilchrist, or not Black Widow, but Black Magic. I always try to call her Black Widow. Who she might have been a Black Widow too, who knows? But the book really does focus on Joyce Gilchrist and Bob Macy. So if you haven't, I think the first couple of chapters are already there. You just have to get the link and listen to it. And I'll get the next ones on tomorrow. And then tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow evening, I'll just kind of throw this out there to anybody who's listening. We'll read some more tomorrow. And I'm going to do 2 chapters, but depending on how late we get started and who's there and who wants to hear more, I might do 3, because it's a pretty good information. It's really compelling right now what's going on in his book. So come and listen to it, because we talk about Elaine Taylor and David Prater. David Prater is also mentioned in that book, by the way. But we talk about David Prater and Galen Gigger and Rocky and Bullwinkle or Blinkwinkle or whoever, Elaine Taylor. They were preceded by Bob Macy and Joyce Gilchrist. Like, they left a legacy for the future.
They trained our people.
What's that?
They trained the people in our days. Yeah.
And there's a quote in the book, and I can't remember if we've read this part yet or not, but there's a quote in the book by Elaine Taylor, because she's in there a few times as well. But in the book, she's innocent. She's, Joyce Gilchrist is my supervisor, and I was told to destroy these rape kits, even though they were only 2 years old, and just like all this craziness. And
yeah, she says, "What are you gonna do?
What are you gonna do?
If your boss tells you to do something, you just do it.
Yeah, you just do it, or lose your job." And I don't know, but just sitting here every time we talk about it, I always say, I don't know. I tell lies, I tell fibs, I tell whatever for whatever reason. I mean, we all do. And I'm not going to try to say I'm not a liar, but I'm not a liar. I don't make a habit of it. But, when you listen to these guys telling their outrageous, God, I don't know. I was going to say stories and lies. You can tell that they're lying, and it's just so infuriating that they get to be believed. And it just really has opened my eyes even more so to what's going on in back then, and what they are now carrying on now, that they were taught by Joyce Gilchrist and the crime lab folks back then, and the police department as well. They're just as dirty in a lot of cases. So
you guys are aware of the John Farrick book about the lab samples that got sent to Joyce Gilchrist, and she completely boned them up?
Oh no,
I'm not familiar.
I'd have to find the book. I can't remember which one.
Please do.
It was about a case in I want to say this happened in Nebraska. He's written a couple of books that were really good, but I'll have to find this out for you. I mean, it's, it doesn't have anything to do with, per se, the Holtzclaw case, but it is about her.
Yeah, it's nice to connect all of her actions.
Right.
Yeah, she really hosed up whatever these blood samples were. Oh man, I'll have to go back and look. I'll get back to
Bloody Lies.
I think it was Bloody Lies.
Yeah.
Oh, that's the one. Bloody Lies. Yeah, you told me about that, I think, Cherie.
Huh.
Yeah, there you go. Kat's got it.
Cool.
Yeah, thanks, Kat. Just FYI, I called myself a liar. Not a liar. I tell a fib now and then because we all do it. But so Katnit's in there, Kat calling me saying liar, liar. And now T1, I can't lie because we're getting ready. Just so you guys all know, we're gonna. I believe Jack is going to be streaming Liar, Liar, maybe tomorrow over in Foul Play. So just in case anybody wants to, come over and watch that too.
I mean, unless everybody wants to watch something different, but it's a good funny movie, a good break.
Yeah, we're kind of all. I think we're all kind of ready for Liar, Liar because Anyway, but yeah, so I think most of us in here know that we've been playing hooky from time to time, watching movies. So come on over there and do that with us because it's we're having a lot of fun doing that too. But so what Jack, what would you say if you had to choose? What would you say is the most outrageous thing or unacceptable thing that's happened in the case that you can, if you had to choose one thing that was the most horrific thing that happened to Daniel, what do you think you might choose that that you're aware of?
Oh, that's tough.
I know. I asked the tough questions.
That is tough.
I know, because it's all outrageous, right?
There's probably 4 or 5 that are really, really terrible. I as bad as what the prosecutor did during trial. Well, you make me think about that one. I don't know. I mean, I guess just blurting it out.
Pick one, it makes sense.
No,
None of us can pick one.
I guess if I'm just going to have to pick one, like right away without really going through everything, I probably would have to say these post-trial motions or meetings that have been allowed to take place without the defense, because they're not even allowed to be in the room. So I just don't. I don't know how they can legally. All the other stuff is really terrible and it's corrupt, but this is like blatant. Like, you can't even be in the room while we're discussing the case about this guy that's locked up. I just.
You don't even get to know about it, that it's happening.
That's right. To me, that just blows me away. I just don't. I can't get around it. I just can't get around it.
Right. And you know what? That's a very valid point in my mind, because as far as we know, which we don't know anything, anything that went on in that meeting could have been the thing that could have set Daniel free. And that's what I think about when I think about those secret hearings or secret meetings.
Oh my gosh, they were mopping things up in that meeting. That's all that meeting was about, is how are we going to cover our
ass is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is all that was about.
Yep.
I mean,
and so blatant,
the way they shuffled her out of there, Elaine Taylor.
Yeah.
That was all such a, can you imagine how much they were sweating trying to figure out what they were going to have to do to even be able to discuss how they were going to get around all of this?
Yeah.
Crazy, man.
Yeah, and I wish I had, I'm sure we will at some point anyway, with all the hashtags and everything, but I wish if I had known, I would have gotten a hold of the letter that she wrote to what's his bucket face to when she retired, the email she sent him, because it's just, I don't know, it just seems like the most, it is the most convoluted here's my 2-week notice email that I've ever seen in my life. So
I like the email that was just, talking about, there's a big the Holtzclaw team is making a big stir. Am I going to be all right?
Yeah,
Something to that effect. That's my
I
quote.
read that one. I don't remember. Who it was.
Basically, yeah, and her superior tells her, "Don't worry about it."
Is Rocky and Blinkwinkle retired now?
Rocky's homicide. He got a promotion to homicide detective.
Of course it did.
After
Of
the
course it did.
Holtzclaw case. That's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kim retired and then came back as a some
Consultant.
technician, like
She works in the tech
some
department.
electronic tech. I can't remember what her title was, but it made you think that she was a real technological person when in fact she couldn't even operate her phone.
I think it's a smartphone.
Yeah.
She couldn't record on her
Yeah, she didn't know how to record.
I
off of
wouldn't
her
even know how
phone.
to do that.
I wouldn't even know how to do it if I could. Okay, weirdo.
So she gets to come back, and obviously she's going to get paid a pretty decent lick
Oh, sure.
to be a electronic technician of some kind, and she can't even operate a smartphone. Okay, that makes sense too.
Well,
Yeah.
now you can take that however you'd like, because she claimed she didn't know how to use the phone except for to
Yeah.
make phone calls and text messages. But you know what? I'm just calling bullshit on that. I
She's a
think,
pretty big liar.
yeah, yes, because she had a son who was, I don't think he was a teenager at the time necessarily. I don't know. I feel like she said he was 13, but there's no way that she didn't know how to at least record. I know that she had to have known how to at least. Did she not ever like take video of her son playing soccer from her phone? Or now I realize they couldn't technically do a recorded video of any of these ladies. Well, they could technically.
Well, they could have, but I don't know what the rules are on that.
But they could have. She could have at least turned on the video recorder and just sat it down and not shot it at anybody and just recorded the voice, But anyway, oh my gosh, she's a real prize. So yeah, they both were recognized in award ceremonies shortly after, and recognized for the work that they did in the Daniel Holtzclaw case, which is
Another blue ribbon event. Oh,
yeah, burn my chaps, is what my mom used to say. That just burns my chaps. So but anyway, yeah, she just it's just insane. Let's see. Looks like T1 has another question, and please don't ask all the questions you want. He's asking, how long was Daniel in law enforcement prior to the event?
I think it was 3 years.
Yep, he had been on the force for just about 3 years. That's right.
Yeah.
Now, this could be its own show at some point someday if we wanted to play with it, and I'm not going to, but I will say, and I don't remember this person's name, but something that did kind of go around, it's what do they call these kind of, besides rumor, there's like an urban legend, I guess you could say, in a sense. But at some point, I want to say it was a year before this happened to Daniel. Daniel and several other officers were called to a residential home family, and there was one of the family members was flipping out and screaming and carrying on, and psychotic really, and he was mentally ill, and I don't remember his name, but Daniel was a part of the arresting, I guess you could say, the arresting officers who ended up having to take this person down because he was so violent and aggressive, and they had to, excuse me, they had to take him down, and they handcuffed him, and I can't remember what the maneuver is called, but they had his hands, this man's hands behind his back and his ankles. And so they have like handcuffs or zip ties or whatever around the ankles and around the wrists. And then they take this big long strap thing and connect that.
yeah. They hogtied him.
Hogtie, thank you. Anyway, this man ended up dying. while in custody. And so, and Daniel was a part of that. Now, where is that at? Oh, to me? Okay, thanks, Cherie. So that is, now there was, I believe the city was trying to settle because of course they were being sued, right? And Daniel was a part of that because he was one of the officers that was involved. And so there was rumor, speculation that everybody else was willing to say something specific that happened that really didn't happen the way they were trying to say, and that Daniel was like, no, ma'am, I'm saying the truth. And, and that's, like I said, speculation, but I know that was something that had been tossed around for a little bit too. And so that was one of the reasons why, that was one of the rumor reasons why, people thought maybe Daniel had been singled out. So I just was answering that.
I seriously don't think so.
I don't think so either. It was,
I've never read what I know about that situation, and I've talked to Daniel about that.
Yeah, no, I don't believe it either. Like, and I said it's definitely, in my opinion, rumor and speculation. So nothing factual, of course.
Well, it just doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense because, nothing was pre-planned. It wasn't a conspiracy. Janie Liggins wasn't in on it. She just decided for whatever reason that suited her to make that allegation. Was she trying to get herself out of trouble? Had she fallen asleep on her friend's couch and she should have been home 2 hours ago? It worked for Terry Morris to take the spotlight off of her and not get arrested. The cops should have arrested Terry Morris that night.
Right, exactly. Instead, they were calling her a victim.
Said she was raped by an Oklahoma City or by a police officer, and then all of a sudden she was not. All of a sudden she was the complainant.
Right.
Yep, and that's not how it was at all. They rewrote the traffic call for their own benefit. So, I do know that guy was out of his mind high on drugs, and that the high level of, but I don't know what kind of drugs it was. If the way Daniel described the actions of the person, it was most likely PCP, but I haven't seen the
who were you talking about, T1, with no 911 call?
I think Liggins.
Oh, no.
Didn't she drive around, or wasn't there a period of time, like hours, before she ever went to the police station?
She went home. She was living with her daughter and her daughter's kids, her daughter's boyfriend or father of the children, and then Janie Liggins' boyfriend. They were all living in an apartment. So she went home, and then some time did elapse between the time that they reported. I feel like they were getting a story together. And I also feel like possibly her daughter encouraged her to do it.
Yeah. Oh, I think so.
To take the spotlight off of herself.
Well, her daughter's obviously really into the Black Lives Matter, and her daughter was really rightfully pissed about what had been happening in the United States with, violence from officers on Black people. That's a real thing. So,
oh, sure, absolutely, I agree.
Daniel up in this thing because it looks bad. He was instantly guilty because of what was going on in our society at the time. I don't know.
Yeah. At the risk of not remembering to say what I want to talk about, I'm going to say it now because Linda tells me this is the last reminder from her. So, basically, it was just a kind of, I don't know, maybe it should have been left maybe just for, the Discord staff or whatever. But, I remember Ma'am, we all remember that Ma'am had done a, online rally this year for Stephen and Brendan in June. And I know that there was one rally. Is that correct, Kay? Or have there been more than one rally for Daniel in Oklahoma City?
Well, when Michelle Malkin released her Daniel in the Den, they did some tours around that, promoting that film. But
Okay.
as far as a MAM type,
There hasn't been anything.
no,
Okay.
no, there hasn't been anything like that. Eric Cozy was really gung-ho that was going to happen. I mean,
Yeah.
he would have been super irritated with COVID-19 because
Yeah.
he had a lot of
Yeah.
Mhm.
Queen Bee, it's nice to see you. Thank you for coming. Yeah. So, I mean, obviously, well, I'll just back up my train just a titch. So Daniel's birthday is December 10th. So having said that, I need every single one of you in this chat right now, besides Dark Side, because she's already done it, because she's amazing. I need every single one of you to come over to Discord, to Daniel's Truth. There is a room, I think it's the library, maybe, or the study. I can't remember exactly which room it is now, but in there is a place where we have Daniel's address where you can write letters to Daniel. And I need every single one of you, even if it's just one sentence, to please come over there. And if you get the address and write a letter yourself, if you'd like, put it in the mail and do it all that way, that would be great as well. If you're for whatever reason that doesn't work for you, you can DM a note or a full big ass letter, or a birthday wish that because it's coming up in 7 days. Just come. He's having a rough time right now. I mean, all of our guys are, because of most of the prisons are pretty much locked down at this point, and
It's
these
in the
guys
study. It's in the study room.
in the study room. Thank you, Jack. And they can't leave their cells anymore. A lot of these inmates in any of these prisons can't even really leave their cells to do anything anymore. They can't exercise anymore. They can no longer, go out into the yard and play games, football, basketball, whatever. They can't leave their cells. And if there was ever a time that our guys, including Brendan and Stephen and anybody else, Julius Jones, all of these guys, but you guys know where my heart is. It's with Daniel. And I really, really am begging some of you, all of you, to please just write him a note. You can put it on the wall in there, or if you would rather, you can put it in a DM to me or Kay or Cherie, and we will make sure that Daniel gets that note. I just sent one off, I want to say Monday, for Dark Side, like I said. And so please, something, and at least, let him know that you are thinking of him, that we are thinking of him. Kay, excuse me. I know that people have asked if Daniel is allowed to receive like greeting cards in his mail. Do you know if he can receive greeting cards?
For a time they had suspended that, but it's back on right now. Cherie, were you talking?
No, I was asking you. I asked the question about the cards, though.
I think it's okay right now. I mean, I know it's okay. I haven't heard that it got switched off again. I don't know why they stopped the greeting cards for a while. There must have been something that was happening shady coming in the greeting cards or whatever.
It's probably a good idea to maybe make sure they're simple, like, not just a simple card,
Yeah,
nothing
not
too
glitter. Yeah.
No glitter, nothing removed, no pop-ups.
Well, yeah, nothing that they would have to inspect and think that I guess drugs is,
Yeah, it's all about the drugs.
through. But yeah, I mean, the communication is it really means a lot to Daniel. Right now, like Rhonda said, they have they're on restrictions where they can't get the things really that they even need right now.
No.
So it's a real drag. And Daniel, he obviously hates being locked down into a small space.
Goodbye.
Having to do right now to try to COVID is rampant in the prison.
In his specific prison, right? Okay.
And yeah, and I mean in his prison and all the area prisons. So they're really just trying to separate the positives from the negatives and just try to, I don't know how you manage COVID inside a prison. You don't. So right now, I mean, he hasn't gotten a positive test back yet. He actually called, no glitter, T1. You're not.
You're going to have to come up with something else, T1.
Yeah,
well, he was going to do those unicorns and stuff for him, but now he can't with glitter.
And probably no markers either, because we can't.
That's what
having him smell the
what? No markers. What?
Oh God, I'm glad when you come over and hang out, T1. You make everybody laugh, and yeah, we all have a good time.
I was going to say
anyway, but
Daniel called about an hour before we got on here tonight, and we talked for about 20 minutes with a really horrible connection. He was calling from a kind of a tablet device. So so far, even though he sounds like he has a cold, it was super loud. It was really hard to hear him. He said that he tested 2 days ago, and although he thinks he probably does have COVID, they didn't move him today, so they don't tell them if they're positive or negative. They just, I guess when they're positive, they come and move them. So he's hanging in there. They were getting some food privileges back.
they lost
food. I mean, if you've ever looked at the menu at prisons and wonder how, that might be enough to sustain a 100-pound person, maybe, but not Daniel. So, he really relies on the extra food to get the calories that he needs to maintain his muscle structure. So, and he just said to tell all the supporters, thank you for everything, and that he hopes everyone had a peaceful Thanksgiving, and that everyone's staying as safe as they can. He's always so appreciative of all the support that he gets, and never fails to end a call that way. So
that's really nice.
And he has an ingrown toenail. So
ouch.
He'd probably kill me for telling you that.
It just sounds like the most mundane, no big thing. But let me tell you, somebody who suffers chronically from ingrown toenails, those little motherfuckers can keep you awake at night, so I know
Those,
how bad they are.
those things kind of hurt.
Well,
Bad.
he said he had it was throbbing
Oh God.
the night before last. But it's better. So I guess he figured a way to take some pressure off of it.
Oh good.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah.
Anyway,
That's,
nothing too exciting, but it was really good to hear from him because I've, for the last, I don't know, almost a year, I guess, I've been talking to him at least 3 times a week. And so this has been strange, not hearing from him for so long.
yeah.
Yeah.
And scary. I would imagine where you're used to that regular communication, and then to not have anything, that would be from somebody who has experience. You guys all know my stories. My 2 brothers have been in prison for, long amounts of time. My youngest son was in prison for over a year, and and so and then my oldest son was in jail for, I don't know, 8 or 9 months. And if time went by and you weren't getting phone calls and things like that you were normal, like used to getting, and you can't get any information, it is a horrible way to spend time, because your focus just becomes what's wrong, or at least it does with me. I tend to kind of be negative at times, and not negative, but that's just the automatic worry. And maybe it's just for mothers, I don't know, but I know it's a terrifying and worrisome thing. If you go that long without hearing anything, it can be really. And now with the way things are, to go that long without the information would just be horrible. So um so I'm glad that you were able to get a call from him today, finally. So as far as writing letters, I've written to Daniel and he's written me back. I don't expect it, but I'll tell you what, it sure is nice when when they take the time to write you back, and you know, share part of their lives with you. And you're writing to people who you don't know, and they don't know you. But it's like I've said to others that, have been, considering and thinking and trying to, get the courage to write to Daniel. What do I say? You know what? The first letter that I wrote to him, and none of you will be surprised, but it was 3 pages long, typed, single space. And I just talked about myself. And yeah, I know you guys can all tease and laugh and whatever. I get it. But really, I just thought, I mean, I didn't say anything negative. I just introduced myself to him and talked about my kids and my grandkids and where I live, and that's how he's going to get to know me. And that's how, he wrote me back and told me things. And I was like, oh, a little more insight to Daniel that I wouldn't have had otherwise. And so, that's just what you do. You just write and you talk about yourself initially, and then just let the letters go back and forth from there. It's the best thing to do. Or at least that's my suggestion. So I want to now I want to say something, and I think, Cherie, were you telling me that you sent me that tweet? Is that what you were trying to tell me? Sorry. Did
Yes,
you send that to me in Discord or my email?
email.
Okay, I'll see if I can find it. I suck at this stuff. Trying to find. I just wanted to share something with everybody. Uh, there's some talk, or some wonder, I guess, from people who, we're all very familiar with Kathleen Zellner. We love her, and we just, anytime we can, get anything from her about Stephen's case, or I'll see if I can share this. I'm not sure if I can or not, but I'm going to give it a shot. We anytime we can get information, we're just like so thirsty for information about Stephen or Stephen from her. Um, but as some of you may or may not be aware, uh, Kathleen Zellner did at one time represent Daniel. However, she did end up having to, I don't want to say drop the case, but I don't really know any other way to say it.
She handed it off.
She handed it off. Good. There you go. Great. That was a great example, Jack. So can you guys see that? Okay. So, let me get
Can you
T1
take
up.
T1's thing away?
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
Well, you know what I mean.
T1, put your thing away.
Stop it.
He's requesting.
Brent, oh, you're in so much trouble.
I didn't say it. You did.
Okay.
Oh God, you gotta know what's gonna happen when you say shit like that to me.
Now I know.
Oh, now you know. What do you mean
And
now
and,
you know?
and,
You
and I've not even started yet. You
Yeah.
just wait.
Exactly. And you know what? Jack can dish it out too.
La
So,
la 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 la.
but trying to get back to seriousness. T1, keep your thing put away so I can do this.
Oh, stop.
This is a tweet from Kathleen Zellner. Like Jack said, she handed it off, and that's a really good explanation. This was something that she tweeted on December 18th. It looks like 2019. Kathleen Zellner announced today that wrongfully convicted Daniel Holtzclaw's defense in federal civil rights lawsuits filed against him and the city of Oklahoma City has been taken over by Oklahoma attorney James L. Hankins because of Ms. Zellner's heavy caseload. Kathleen Zellner states Daniel is 100% innocent, and she has the hashtag truth wins. And then she has tagged Michelle Malkin at Justice for Daniel and at Making a Murderer and at Life After 10. And I think we're familiar with those cases. So yes, she did have the case for a while, but we all know what she's doing for Stephen, and
It's not only his case; it's there are
right.
others, but then there's Melissa's case too, which is just
Yep.
another clusterfuck of. Well,
Yep.
anyway.
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. So yes, she did hand the case over. It sounds much better than saying dropping the case. But it wasn't because she thought that Daniel was guilty. Please know that if you hear people say that, please, kindly, politely, respectfully correct them on that, refer them to the tweet, because that's bothersome, when we knowing Kathleen the way we know her, and that she won't take a case if she believes that the person is guilty. And then to kind of say, well, she dropped Daniel's case or she gave up Daniel's case or whatever, that implies or makes people, especially those who are not familiar with his case, believe that he must be guilty then if Kathleen Zellner dropped him. So,
Rhonda, I think what people really don't understand is that she was involved in the civil part,
right.
So it's not like she said, oh, hey, I'm not going to work on your. It wasn't like she was involved in any of the appeals that Supreme Court or his direct appeal even. So I think people, when they hear that she, passed the case off, they think that they don't realize it was that she was stepping off of the civil. And, like I said, Oklahoma's been pushing the civil case, pushing it. It's been going on for all this time that she was involved in it, and it still hasn't happened. So, yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification as well.
Yeah.
Okay. And with that, we just need to remember to be mindful. I still follow, of course, I'm still involved in following Stephen and Brendan's cases. They're my originals, but I am very involved in researching and trying to, do what I can to help Daniel. And that's where my focus is right now with Stephen. We're just kind of waiting around for, who to move over there in Wisconsin. And so until something, happens there, I mean, I know there are a lot of people who are still just like deep diving in Stephen's case into things that I've never even heard of before. And that's great. Maybe it will help, maybe it won't, who knows, but
It doesn't hurt.
no, it can't hurt. No, you never know what little tidbit or nugget is going to, turn everything completely. And that's what we always hope for. But at the same time, just because, we have people in our communities who only look at Stephen and Brendan, or Stephen or Brendan. And then I'm still part of that community, but my focus right now is Daniel. But it's very important that we don't go on. I'm very careful to not come on to my show and say things about Stephen or Brendan, if I don't know a fact or something, because I don't want to hurt what somebody else is doing, as far as researching or, putting out their information. And so we need to please really be mindful and careful, of things that we say about other cases, regardless, of if it's the case that we're really deep into or following or not. Because we also don't want to give out, incorrect or whatever information about any other case either, that we're following, especially in these wrongful convictions, because they already have everything already against them. We don't need to add to that, with just misinformation that we might have gotten or something. So that's just a reminder. And I don't think there's a problem. I don't see that it's, a thing that goes on, but just a reminder with, as much as we're trying to get more and more people to come and follow Daniel's case, we're not asking you to give up Stephen or Brendan or, what other case you might be following, but just also, give Daniel's a little attention too. It's probably one of the newest cases and one of the most infuriating and outrageous that we're currently dealing with right now. And Kay has, said this many times. With Daniel, it wasn't just one trial. It was more like 13 trials, because that's how many accusers, he went to trial for, were 13 women. That's 13 trials, really, if you think about it. And when you
There originally were more than that, weren't there?
Mm-hmm.
When they're 22 or then
accusers,
like that?
yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. But 13 came to trial, and was it 7 or 8 were guilty? Can't remember.
Yeah, I think that's right. Another thing, speaking about what you're talking about, Rhonda, another thing that I've seen happen time and again is, as time goes on, and facts emerge from the case, whichever case, it doesn't have to be Daniel's or Stephen or Brendan's, is that something will get said that's actually true. Yeah. And then it gets passed on to someone else without the source.
That's right.
And it gets altered a little. It gets passed on to someone else, and it gets altered again to someone else, again without the source following it. So when you don't have the source accompanying, things get twisted, they get turned, and then it becomes a fact, when in fact it's not true at all. It gets twisted so badly that by the time it gets to the 8th person or 100th person's reading on Reddit or Twitter or Facebook, whatever, it's completely altered.
Right.
And then somebody that actually knows it comes along and says, that's not true, that didn't happen, and people want to argue with you, and then you pull it up and show them, they're like, oh, well, damn, I didn't know that. Well, I understand that, I'm trying to help you. So.
Yeah. So now I'm telling you. Now I'm giving you the proof and the information.
Right.
Exactly. You're exactly right, Jack. I feel like this has been a fun and interesting and really good conversation. Light and no documents, no DNA, and no intense researching and reading and things. So it's been really nice, and I appreciate all of you coming and taking the time to listen on this little impromptu one. I was hoping that I was gonna, yeah, you're exactly right. T1, a bad game of telephone. We used to all play it when we were kids.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Yep.
It's true.
It is. And I was hoping that, some of you might be willing to share your little, your story of how you became involved in the case, or became interested. I shouldn't say involved in, but became interested. And, but you can do that. You can still do that. We're gonna wrap it up here in a few minutes, but you can still do that. And you can do that by doing what? Just come on over to Discord and, just drop a note in, gosh, I don't care what room you put it in, just do it. Just put something in. So
Listen, T1 made a comment.
Divert.
He said, is it over? Pants off dance and off now? Look, if you're at your keyboard, there's a rule. If you're at your keyboard, you're not really supposed to have pants on anyway. So
Right.
it's pants off. I don't know what this pants on business is.
Yeah, I was just going to say, well, no comment. I'm not going to say anything, actually. Never mind. I'll just leave that alone.
Good call.
I know what I can be facing after this is over if I don't. And I've already had enough, so oh god. But yeah, you guys have been great. Your questions have been great. Your comments have been great. Jack, what else do you have? What else would anything? It doesn't have to be about Daniel. What else do you want to talk about for a couple of minutes? It's all you. You're up there. You say whatever you want to say. Go.
I think that.
Okay, that's enough.
That's what I thought. I knew that was coming. I was going to get whacked on the ear.
I'm just kidding. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I think that that's okay. I probably deserved it somewhere in there.
You did.
Looking at all these different cases, I think T1 even mentioned what's this latest one we all watched on Netflix, Trial 4.
Oh,
is that right? Trial 4.
Yeah.
I mean, that was a dreadful, dreadful. I mean, I don't know how many haven't watched it. I don't want to spoil it for anyone, but for it to go that long, and these cops, what they did, all that time, I could probably sit here and rattle off probably 25 just right in my head, and that's terrible. I mean, you think about it, how terrible that is, but also at the same time, the real need for reform that many people are trying to do. We talk about the cases, but then there are others that are actually actively trying to do something about it. And this is not to say that we don't need police. Of course, we need the police. We need it to be straight. Let's just talk about Daniel's case for just a moment. If you think about Daniel being singled out in this instance, how many police officers did he work with? Now, I know he was only there for about 3 years. That doesn't matter, though. You think about him being singled out, how many in that department actually knew and stood by of anything that would have helped him? How many knew? And I have to ask the question because there had to be at least one. I mean, Oklahoma, that's the Oklahoma City Police Department, right? Is that right, Kay?
Right, that's correct.
I don't know how many people are employed there that actually knew that, and thinking to themselves, well, there's just absolutely no way. There's just absolutely no way. Maybe even afraid for themselves. This could have happened to any of us that were in this realm. Because as we've all seen in so many of these other cases, if the police want you or a prosecutor wants you, more than likely they have the ability now to make it work, unless you're extremely wealthy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they have power is crazy. The amount of power they have. You're right.
So they have, not only themselves, they generally have state police if need be. They have troopers. They have obviously the crime lab. They're all connected in these various states. They're connected to the police departments. that they have basically total access to them. They don't do stuff for the defense. They have the media feeds off of them, and it's happened for forever. But it's really bad now. I mean, you look in Daniel's case, you look in so many of these other cases, and the Avery Dassey cases. I mean, the knife on the Duke lacrosse case comes to mind, like really bad. That was horrible. Yeah. Melissa's case, the media played their end of it too. So you stack all this stuff up against someone, even in modest means like Daniel's family, it just completely destroys them financially and every other way. There's just no way to win. So this reform aspect of it has to happen. I mean, to me, it just the criminal justice system, plea deals. Don't even get me going on plea deals, because to me, it's the worst thing that could have ever. And it's it's been going on now for so long. It's just like part of the system, the plea deal. These people that are poor, indigent, they have no money, but the prosecutor rolls out some kind of plea deal because they know if they go to trial, they're going to lose and they're facing a lot more time. So of course they're going to say, yeah, sure, I'll take the plea deal. Mm-hmm. So they can reduce whatever time in jail, or, maybe walk out with probation or something, but it's a win for the prosecutor.
Yeah.
The system in itself needs reform and protections. And my God, the power that they have over it's not innocent until proven guilty anymore. It's not. It hasn't been for a long time.
No.
That's
okay.
Right. I agree.
That's my 50 cents worth.
Yeah. Excellent.
No, thank you. Yeah, that was great. I appreciate that.
Thanks for inviting me.
Oh, yeah. Well, like I said, it was you, who brought it to my attention to begin with. And that was the case that I've been waiting for. By the time I got to Stephen and Brendan, I don't want to say it was almost over, but because it's still not over, of course. But there was already so much research done and information provided and shared that I didn't even know. I would try to go look for things or whatever, but I would soon find out that had already been found and shared, and and so it was really I just felt like I was just banging my head against a wall because I wasn't contributing anything that wasn't already there. And but I learned from it. I learned from everything that all of you researchers did and everything that you shared. And, I was so grateful for that, because before that, like everybody else, I had nothing. And I was getting information, of course, from Eric Jose, and that was great. But I was thirsty for more, just like always. And so, and I found that in Reddit and in Twitter, and eventually in, Discord and things like that. So, and of course in Richard's lives, but Daniel's case is still, and was, still fairly new, really, as wrongful conviction cases go. So, and it's not like I was like, oh, here's a new case, I'll start paying attention. No, it would like grab me in my gut and in my heart. I couldn't let it go. I just this was the one. And so I owe that to you, Jack, because I don't know that prior to you, telling me about Daniel's case, I don't know. Well, I probably would still know, because, right around that time was when Eric Jose started talking about it as well. And I tried to jump on board with him, but it just wasn't happening. It wasn't, we weren't managing to make that work, and that's okay, because what that did was just push me, to start my own thing. And, it's been hard because I had no idea what to do. And, Linda and I tried to make a go of it, and we really just struggled, and, we just couldn't quite get where we thought we wanted to be.
Well, coming into it, you're much later in the game. It's hard to get that process rolling. But just keep working at it. Just keep just keep going. Don't let any roadblocks stop you. T1 pointed out a really good thing. Is the consequences for bad actors. There are none. I'm not going to say there's none, but there's not enough. These guys that go in, and ladies and gentlemen that become these police officers and prosecutors and so forth. There has to be a real consequence, for crossing the line, and it's not always them being able to have whatever immunity deal or they take a plea arrangement or whatever. There has to be some real consequence because we're handing them the gun and the badge, and that means that it's not like being a doctor. I mean, it isn't to a degree. They're holding a scalpel in a lot of ways, but it's a different kind of thing for police. It's a unique situation. How many pilots or how many plane crashes? This is an old analogy, but how many planes have to fall out of the sky before the airlines are really held accountable to the nth degree by everyone. Yeah, and it's because the general public, they're made to trust these things in our society. This can't be any different. It just can't. But it's been allowed to be that way, so people that are less than honest, less than good, have other intentions, can remain in a position or remain in power. It has to change, and there has to be consequences. I completely agree, T1. It's terrible.
Yeah. And sometimes we're all left scratching our heads, like, what do we do? And I know that we brainstormed it a few times, some of us, and writing your congressmen and your senators and your legislatures and and all those things. And I don't know if I can even trust any of that anymore. Honestly, I just I know that's a really un-American thing to say, but good God,
but that's what we have. So and don't
right.
Even if you get a letter back, blah 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 blah, write them again.
Right.
Get a letter back, blah blah, write them again. Just
keep writing.
Don't get that. Well, the squeaky wheel gets the grease, right?
And vote.
Absolutely vote.
How
Absolutely.
many of us go to vote and maybe not now, but in the past, think back when you really didn't know about the judges or
research.
You really hadn't researched the ballot before you go and you find yourself just voting for the incumbent. That happens so often, and I think it's why people, obviously it's why people stay in power for so long, but we really have to find good district attorney candidates and help them win, because the district attorney holds so much power. Really the most power, except for the attorney general, in these cases. And I really do believe that Daniel's case is going to turn on criminal justice reform and all of these crooked players being exposed, not just in his case, but in all the wrongful conviction cases in Oklahoma, because it is crazy here how many innocent people we have sent to prison. And we have to find someone who cares, someone who acknowledges what's going on, what has gone on, and someone that's willing to fight for change, because these people can't operate with immunity. That's not that's why we needed this stuff.
Do you remember the name of the one in the the HBO miniseries that they had? I can never remember this kid's name. Who?
Khalif Browder.
No, him too, but no, the one in Texas.
Greg Kelly or something? from Texas?
Yeah. The DA in that state or in that county or whatever it was, he did fight for like he was, he was,
The new DA.
huh?
Are you talking about the football player from
Yeah,
Texas?
I think it was out, if I'm mistaken. But yeah, it was a mini series. It was about the football player, and
Yeah, that was the newly elected DA.
yes,
So
and
that's a great example of what will happen.
yes, and that's a great exactly what we need is more people like him in that position.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, yeah. No, I will never give up. Of course, Jack. I'll never. Who knows? Just like with Stephen and Brendan, when they walk out of prison, I'll be there. Won't probably be anywhere, be able to get close to them, and that's fine. But I want to be there for that. I'll be there for the day Daniel walks out of prison because I believe it's going to happen. And so I won't give up. At any rate, so yeah, this has been great. It's a lot more fun when you're just like chit chatting and not really having to make sure that you're showing documents or whatever. Gosh, it's a lot more relaxing. But at any rate, anything else, Kay, that you wanted to add before we sign off here? Or no, Shereen, my little quiet one over in the corner.
I'll just encourage everybody to, or if you haven't already, listen to Brian Bates' podcast, and that really gets you deep into the case where you can see all the bull crap that went on.
Yeah.
It's Cherie's my little not that she's representing me, but she's my own little personal defense attorney that we always have questions of, and she's a great researcher, and really if we ask about it or question a thing or whatever, it's just a matter of a couple of minutes and Cherie's got something for us. So that's really awesome, and she's dedicated, and she's in it too. She's not going anywhere, and of course Nano K isn't. And I'm just encouraging the rest of you, please join in with us, and let's all work on it together. Everybody's going where right today? We're going over to the study in Daniel's Truth to send a little Daniel, either to one of us in private or on the wall, and we'll get it to him, or get the address and you can mail your letters. Daniel's birthday is December 10th, which happens to be the day that was the day he was convicted, and all of the nasty, hateful supposed peacemakers outside were singing a disgusting birthday song to him that night. And so let's try to help him remember that it was the day that he was given life, as opposed to the day that his life and freedom were taken away from him. Of course, we have the holidays coming, another hard time, and especially if these guys aren't going to be able to have physical contact visits. We just need to be doing our part. If that's the only thing we can do, we need to be writing to these guys and letting them know they're never far from our minds.
That's such an easy thing to do.
It is. Even if all you want to do is just say, hey, you don't know me, but this is what I'm a part of, and I just want you to know I believe in your innocence, and I'm here to support you. That's all you have to say. It can be that simple.
Yep.
So just please do that for me, for Daniel, not for me, but for Daniel. And with that said, if nobody else has any more questions, then we might go ahead and wrap this up. And there might be another one that we pop up with in the next week or so. But we will be back on December 15th with a hashtag. So in the meantime, meet us over at Discord. We'll be watching Daniel's Truth Discord, and then we'll be watching movies, I'm sure, all weekend in Foul Play. So, come on over there and, just relax, let your hair down or put your pants on or off or whatever y'all are doing with your pants.
Oh, God.
And, I'm feeling sure.
Oh, my God.
I'm just going to ask it. I mean, do people here really own pants? I mean, all this talk about putting britches on. Come on.
Okay, really, am I really embarrassing you? I'm sorry. I
No,
don't mean
I'm
to
not. No, I'm not embarrassed. I don't get it.
liar.
No.
You had your head down, covering your face, like to Daniel's family and everything. I don't know who this lady is. Please
Oh, his
don't.
mom's probably watching, so
Oh my gosh, I am so sorry.
you
Just
should.
we're just having fun tonight. That's all. So.
Mhm.
But well, if she is watching or if she watches it any other time, Mrs. Holtzclaw, we love you and your whole family, and we love Daniel, and we will never give up on Daniel. I've never really addressed the family in any way, but I just want you to know that we are all here for Daniel. So, and we hope that you're able to feel our love and support during the holidays. Under these dark times. So, all right. Well, with that said, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap it up. And since Kay is the only one that's got an actual face, we'll leave her up there as we go out. And have a great night, you guys. We'll see you in a Discord somewhere. And until next time, see you later.